Hi everyone, so I'm Luke, I'm the founder of Student.com. And Student.com is the world's leading marketplace for student housing. And student housing is like one of those niche categories of real estate, which is actually not only a very big category, but it's also a very important category for students. And we think about our business in many ways as one of the underpinnings of the student life. So when I say it's a big niche, about $180 billion is spent, US dollars, on student housing. We started this business in 2011. And so we spent the last 7 years building a brand which is trusted by thousands of what we call partners, and millions of students in key markets. So where did the Student.com journey start? I've been living in China for more than 10 years. And when back in 2010-11, it just happened, I was in the real estate industry, so not in tech. I had a real estate background, but a lot of my friends had sons and daughters who were studying overseas, coming to the US, going to UK, going to Australia, and other markets. And one of the key questions was, how do they solve that problem? When I say we've partnered with thousands of partnerships, in Asia, there's a big industry of education agents, companies like Oriental and TAL. I think both of them are present here. But down to the kind of mom and pop education agent that will help 50 to 100 students per year. We've partnered with universities. We've sponsored student organizations, and we've sponsored some of the big official organizations like UCAS, which is the organization that helps you apply for university. So what does the company look like? As I mentioned, we started in Asia, but we've been broadening out since then. We're heavily based in Asia, with Shanghai being our biggest office. And because of that, we started, therefore, helping international students. So why do international students have this specific issue? So I think like any marketplace, there's two sides of the marketplace. So you've got students on the one hand, and you've got landlords on the other, and they're trying to connect with each other. And I think one thing if I back up a sec, 10 years ago, there was less than 1 million students international students living overseas. And so typically an international student, let's say in China or in Singapore or in Vietnam or wherever, would speak to their university, they would speak to their agent, and they'd say, where should I live? And the obvious question was, why don't you live on campus? But with the explosion of international students, more and more students have had to live off campus. And the supply of student housing is super fragmented. It's hard to decide, whether it's good quality or not. There's language barriers. You might not speak English. Your parents almost certainly don't speak English if you're coming from a country like China. And it's non-standardized. And on the other hand, the landlord has probably the same issue. They're maybe very strong in a specific market, like let's say San Diego. You have 3 campuses here, and each one has a slightly different location. So, landlords in San Diego might be very good at marketing to students here locally, but how do they communicate and market to a student in Vietnam who's never been to San Diego? So that's really what you're dealing with. And so what Student.com does, we help both sides. We provide convenience, we provide quality, we provide localized listings. So in every different country, we will localize our listings for the tastes of that student group. And we therefore become a trusted partner also for the universities and for the exchange programs and for the feeder programs. Then on the landlord side, we're just, I guess fundamentally any real estate operator, what do they care about? One of the first things they care about is reducing their acquisition costs. So we reduce acquisition costs because we're more efficient. And we give them an access to a global market. So the largest student housing operator in the US is called American Campus Communities. They're a publicly listed REIT, over 100,000 beds. A lot of their beds are actually on-campus housing as well. But they don't have on-the-ground presence in a lot of Asian markets, and Europe and Latin America as well. The other thing that obviously people talk a lot about data these days when you have a technology-enabled platform. And from our perspective, what we have is really deep knowledge of the entire market. So we can look, from session all the way down to completed booking, what students have done, and what they're looking for, what room types they're looking for, what roommates they want, what lifestyle they have, and what type of student they want. So that even a really large player like an ACC, who might have a very detailed understanding of their own portfolio, they don't have an understanding of the whole world. So, like any marketplace, really what you need to build up is a virtuous cycle of, in our case, more apartments rented, which brings more brand visibility, more user reviews, better customer experience on the student side, and therefore more student traffic, which brings greater landlord participation, and therefore more supply listed. So we started with China, but now we're serving over 130 nationalities, and destination-wise, US, UK, and Australia are our biggest, but we're present in 30 countries. As I say, like the UK, US, and Australia are the largest English-speaking university destinations, serving what's now probably 6 million international students, growing to 8. And then on the source country side, China's our biggest market because that's where we started, but the other half of the coin is predominantly the other Asian markets and Europe. I think the other thing that one of the earlier presentations mentioned is this concentration of corridors. Obviously, China is the number that people talk a lot about, of over 350,000 Chinese students in the US. It is very concentrated. There's more than half a million students in the top 5 corridors alone. So there you get it. Being very strong on those has been important. And then for us as a business, I guess back in 2011 when I first helped our first student, it was a girl who went to Sheffield, and a week later she called me up and she said, like, hey, my best friend wants to come too. We thought back then, like, okay, of course a Chinese student needs our help a lot because they have never been to, I'm running out of time, they've never been to these destinations. For us, the most important thing is also to be able to help the domestic market. We turned on domestic last year in the UK first as a test, and the numbers have been growing very fast. I think like one of the important numbers for people to remember is that there's probably 100 million new students going to enter entire education over the next 10 years. And so that's kind of the number that we want to go after. I think I probably need to cut my time, is that right? So I'll leave you with a couple more things. Okay, my time is out. There is a huge demand-supply imbalance in student housing. As I mentioned before, with the explosion of students, there are not enough places for people to live. And what I just had up there, 15 million students live off campus just in the top 5 markets. And so that's the problem that we're solving for. And I hope that we can continue to support students in a very important aspect of their life. I'm around for the next few days, and I'm speaking also on a panel on Wednesday, so please grab me if you want to discuss in more detail.